Hello, my name is Hannah Long, and today I will be giving a persuasive speech on why the U.S. women's national team should get equal pay to the U.S. men's national team. So before I go into my whole speech, I just want to start off with a little bit of why I believe that they should get equal pay. Growing up, I played soccer my whole life. I played with boys, I played with girls, played with all boys, and I was the only girl. Played with all girls, played with a mixture of both. And I just believe that the way that men think about women is the men just think that they have a higher ground than us. Whenever I played with the men, they were always so sweet, but they just didn't understand why. If I started over a guy, they didn't understand why that was a thing, even if I was better, if I was scoring more. Not saying that I was, but they just didn't think, they just were thinking, like, oh, why is she starting over me? I'm a guy, I should start over her. Things like that. Also playing at a high school where my women's team dominated over the men's team. We won more games. If we played the same team, we would win. We would score more goals. We just were all around better than the men's team. I'm not saying the U.S. women's national team is better than the men's team. I'm just saying that I have this feeling that they just think that they have the higher ground than the women, and that them getting more pay is okay when it's really not. Because when I go over the statistics and show you the numbers and all the examples of how it breaks down, you'll understand too why the women should get equal pay to the men's. So to begin, the U.S. women's national team has outperformed the U.S. men's team for years, but yet they're still underpaid. After winning the 2015 World Cup, which I was there, and I can say that they dominated that whole game, and playing in the World Cup is never easy at all. So the women won by a landslide. That final game wasn't even a game, wasn't even competition. The women dominated. That's when the women decided this is enough. We can't keep playing to our top performance and still getting underpaid to the men. So that year alone, the women produced nearly $20 million in revenue for the U.S. soccer organization than the men's team did, but that still wasn't enough for them to get equal pay. While the women deserve equal pay, they also deserve equal treatment, which they are also not getting. So going to equal treatment, the women have stated that the men get treated with higher class than they do. For example, when they have away games or travel games, when they have to fly somewhere, the men fly business while the women fly economy. Now, the women don't mind flying economy, but what they're trying to fight for is, well, why are the men flying business and we're flying economy? Is it because all the money's going towards the men's team and from the U.S. soccer organization? Is that where all the money's going, and that's why they're able to fly at a nicer flight than we are? We have to get the short end of the stick and fly economy every time, or is it like what's the issue? Why can't we fly both? Why is there a problem? So like I said, it's not about the flight. It's just about the equality to the men's team. That's what they're wanting. That's what they just expect. Also, the women, they also receive a lower per diem, which, just to give an example or tell you what that is, a per diem is a specific amount of money that an organization gives to an individual. So each individual on the U.S. women's national team, every player on that team gets a certain amount of money. Each individual on the U.S. men's team gets a certain amount of money. But what the women get is way less than what the men get. And they also get a lower sponsor appearance fee than the men's team. So that's not even talking about their salary or like winning games. That's just this little bit of money that the organization gives each player, and it's still significantly less than the men's team. So to break down the pay gap, if both teams were to win 20 regular season games each, an individual female player would earn a maximum of $99,000, while an individual male player would earn a maximum of $263,000. That alone is, just the numbers alone, winning a game, and the women get that significantly less money. Like, that's just crazy. So if you do the math, that's about $4,950 for a woman and $13,166 for a man per game. Again, the math, it doesn't add up. It's crazy. A pay gap this wide in a profession like this one that is displayed on a world stage is very eye-opening. It should be eye-opening to everybody. I think that when people watch the women play and they're thinking, oh, they're so good, they make so much money. Yes, they make a lot of money, but they don't realize that their pay is so different from the men's team. But yet you would think that they would honestly get paid more for how great they have been doing. So the prize money for the World Cup is $30 million for a woman, $400 million for men. Again, 30 to 400 million. Now the women do have the luxury of receiving that money because they have won World Cup titles recently, where the men have not even been close to one since 1930. You would think that with that kind of information, the women would be getting paid more, but they're not even fighting for more. They're just fighting for equal. Having won the World Cup just recently, 6 years ago, to the men not even being close, not even making really the games to lead up to the World Cup final since 1930, and they still just by little regular season games get paid more. I would understand, and I think everybody would understand, if the men were winning and playing in those games to get to the World Cup and playing in a World Cup, but since they haven't and the women are still getting paid significantly less, I think that's what's starting to make people realize, hey, that's not really fair at all. The argument that the U.S. soccer organization has is that the women have less skill than the men, so why should they get paid more? Or why should they get paid equal? I'm sorry. That reason alone is not good. This is both the men and women's career. They both work hard every day, go through the same working conditions, but also it's more tolling on a woman's body since the U.S. women's national players, most of them have had babies, been pregnant, had babies, and they had to work hard to get back into that top shape to be able to compete at such a high level. The men don't go through that. Yes, the men still go through injuries, the women still go through injuries, but they're not giving birth like the women are and having to go back and basically from scratch and work their way up to where their body was before they had the baby to be able to compete at such a high level. And they are still underpaid. These women are not asking for more pay than the men. They don't even care about that. They don't want more pay. They don't want that kind of freedom, we get paid more than the men because we're so much better than them. No, they just want fairness. They just want equal pay. They want equal treatment and everything, and I believe that is what they deserve, and I think that's what everybody thinks they deserve. Most of the research I've done, most of the people I've talked to, people who have watched them play, how I've watched them play, my friends, we all believe that these women deserve equal pay. And the U.S. soccer organization, to sit there and say that they're not as skilled as the men, but the men have not reached a World Cup since 1930 and the women have, it's just not a good excuse. And these women deserve the equal treatment that towards the men.